this weekend. Okay, that's everybody.
I'm going to run over real quick. I don't think you need me for a moment.
Steve.
Is it a council meeting if Steve's not presenting?
Okay, Eric, your tie threw me off today.
Yeah.
I don't know what the proper name is for it.
Still look up.
Bull nose?
Yeah.
Polo.
Oh, bolo.
Bolo, yeah.
I was gonna call it a bone nose.
Yeah, yeah.
Bolo.
I was digging through some of my grandpa's stuff this weekend and found this. I thought, oh, that's kind of cool.
That is pretty cool, but it was a surprise. I'm like,
It's
that's not a
me,
normal
huh?
Eric look.
I don't know if it really goes with me. But I thought I'd-
Well, I was like, you don't have the keepers. Yeah, and the appropriate boots.
I guess those boots are uncomfortable.
Cowboy boots are the most comfortable shoe you'll ever
Oh,
own.
really?
Yes, once you wear them, you'll never go back.
I have to go to Callister's and get some.
They're very comfortable.
Amazing.
All right, it is 4:30 and we'll call to order the study session of the West Valley City Council. It's March 22nd at 4:30 and we're in the multipurpose room of City Hall. We'll note that Councilmember Christensen is excused. All others are in attendance either online or in person. We have the minutes of March 15th of 2022. Is there any discussion or a motion on the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Is there anyone opposed to the minutes? Seeing none, the minutes pass. Our regular meeting tonight has been canceled for the Democratic Caucus. And we will now move on to our public hearing, which is the budget.
I am promoting Jim.
Okay, Jim is online and will be sharing the budget with us.
Okay, take me. Okay, have you got me there?
We do, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mayor. This is our quarterly budget opening, which is a revision of the existing budget to recognize new revenues, to also carry forward projects from previous fiscal years and any other items that might come up that need to be addressed in the budget. Many of these should look familiar to you as a lot of them have already been approved by the council as far as expenditures. There are some things that I will be happy to point out, and then I'd be happy to take any questions. So a couple of things that are on here that that really stick out is we have budget opening. The fourth one down under grants is the ARPA payment number 2. This is a budget opening that we're requesting to be put in place in anticipation of receiving the American Rescue Plan funds that are due by the end of next June. By having this in the budget, it allows us to accept them into the grants fund. And I think you'll remember, I think it was 2 years ago, they gave us the money that late in the year and we didn't have a budget opening in place, and it caused our audit to show an exception. So in anticipation of that, we'd like to put this budget opening in place. And then if it doesn't come in, it really doesn't affect the budget, but it at least gives us the authorization to accept it. Some other things that you'll remember, we have the roads revenue bonds for $12,200,000 $85,000. That was the bond that was put together based on the House Bill 411 money that's going to be coming in to make those bond payments and allows us to do needed repairs and projects that need capital up front. Let's see, some other ones that might stick out. We have the, on the next page under other type of budget openings, we have a fire truck lease, which you'll recall was almost about $1 million. We're hoping to have delivery on that truck. As I remember, the chief was saying somewhere around 1.5 years from now. Takes them quite a while to build those. It does require some funds up front, and they're a large capital purchase. Some other small kind of interesting notes right below that one is the FEMA project reimbursement. That is the acceptance of the money that we received from the Federal Emergency Management Act group that is paying for the earthquake damage that we had 2 years ago. We finally got reimbursement for those. And then we also have at the very bottom, the last one is a new filtration system at the bridge, which was approved last fiscal year, and the budget had not been rolled over. Apparently it's taken a little bit longer to complete that project, and that one's showing up. So with that, anything past that or projects and previously approved budget openings that the city council has already considered, and per your request, we've just included that historical information. I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you might have.
Okay, I'll turn it over to the council.
It's House Bill 244.
Okay,
Okay.
so not 411, 244.
I'm getting my hot resolutions mixed up.
That's all right. Thank you. Any questions from the council or comments?
Oh, yes, I have a question. A comment, Mayor.
Okay.
If you don't mind. Yeah. Some places in the US, we have some kind of COVID is coming back. So we're planning to have some kind of budget for that, or we're gonna receive some funding from the Fed. Jim?
For COVID?
Yeah, for the COVID.
Yeah, so far that's an interesting question, Councilman. The COVID, if it does come back, all of the funds that the federal government has authorized to come to the city will have been received with this second payment of ARPA funds. So if something does happen and we have a new pandemic or a resurgence of the old one, and either the state or other agencies, the federal government decide to give more funds for that pandemic mitigation that we are not anticipating right now, we would recognize that when the legislation is passed, but there's nothing in the works right now.
If it does, it will show in a budget number, correct, and in the list.
Yeah, it will. It'll show up as budget opening, and you'll find out about it pretty quickly.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other comments or questions, we'll move on to our next public hearing. Thank you, Mr. Welch. Our next public hearing is application Z for 2022. Mr. Pyle, or let's see. It's Mr. Anderson
Yeah, that's fine.
on Zoom.
Yep, thank you, Mayor. Let me pull up the presentation.
Well, you're a little choppy.
Are you seeing that now, or are you hearing me?
We're
Yes,
seeing it, Brock. You're a little choppy, but go ahead and see how we go.
Sorry, hopefully that resolves. So this is an application for a rezone from the R110 to the C2 General Commercial Zone. The location is here at 2858 South, 5600 West, and it's a 0.05 acre parcel. And this is just another zoomed in shot of that parcel. Again, we have the basically directly west of the Benzai Teppanyaki restaurant right here. This slide shows the current zoning surrounding that parcel. So as you can see to the west, it's zoned RM, and to the east and kind of south and north, it's all C2 zoning. Basically, the history on this is in 2010, 2020, the council approved a rezone of these two areas here. The front portion was rezoned from R110 to C2 for a hotel development. And then this back portion was rezoned to RM for a townhome development. This kind of curved line here, you see there will be a road extending through here, connecting the road to the north and south. And basically, again, the hotel development will be here east of the road, and the townhome development will be west of the road. And so, again, the request here is to rezone this small little leftover piece to R110. At the time, the developers that were doing that rezone, they did not own this parcel, and they have since acquired it and are now just wanting to include that portion as part of the hotel development. So this is a site plan for the hotel. Again, you have 5600 West out here, the new road that will come through, and then this is the subject parcel. Basically, they're wanting to just use that as an area for their dumpster enclosure and for additional landscaping for the property. And then this is just a photo, again, of that vacant parcel as it stands today. So that is the request.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions from the council? Seems pretty simple. And I can't see the people online to know, no hands up. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you.
And we'll move to our resolutions, 22-55, and I'll turn the time back to Mr. Welch.
As he's coming on too, ma'am, if I could just make an introductory comment. I know a lot of these we're trying to get away from leases and we are. This is just kind of in that transition period. This is one of the projects that was a little longer.
Okay.
In the making.
Thank you for the introduction there. This is the leasing portion or the financing portion of the security and additional backup equipment that the IT department needs. It's part of their regular replacement program, and I understand the current systems are either outdated or to the point where they need to be done to replace to maintain their security. The U.S. Bank, this is schedule number 23 under our master lease agreement with them. They've quoted and locked in a rate of 2.28%, which we feel like is pretty good in today's market. This will be for 5 years. This is a purchasing arrangement, so we own the equipment from day one, and the payments will end in 2027. These are fairly routine. You've seen, well, obviously a number of these, but if there's anything else, I'd be happy to answer those questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Welch from the council? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to resolution 2256. And we have Mr. Bunderson. That's going to take that one.
Yes, ma'am. I'll change the camera. I feel like a one-man band here. I know. Sorry. Change the camera around. Okay. Eric Bunderson, in this particular instance, representing the IT department to talk about the actual purchase of the items that we just talked about leasing or purchasing through that mechanism. Whatever mechanism the council chooses to use, we think this is a necessary step, as Mr. Welch pointed out, towards backing up and securing our data. Right now, we have about 0.5 petabytes of data, which sounds like a lot to me, that we need to keep backed up. And what this will do is allow us to have some software, so basically some big advanced hard drives. That's the HP Apollo part. And then this software, which is really the star of the show, this Veeam, VEAM software, which will allow us to send the data down down to our backup facility in St. George. As you can see again, you're welcome for the free art. Always happy to provide that for you. We have a direct Utopia line down to this place called Tonnequah in St. George, where we send our backups. And how this software will work is it will send the changes, the daily changes. Not that we won't send all half a petabyte down and have to restore it back every day, but it will send the changes and store those on a daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly basis. The software also does some neat things like monitors the health of all of our servers, so we can make sure that those are running well and keeping our data systems intact. And so that's what the stuff does that we're asking the council to approve.
Okay, any questions from the council? Okay, so my question is this,
Yes, ma'am.
because I'm not the computer person. So you send down changes.
Mhm.
What if in one of those changes, there's a virus or something?
Great
How do
question.
we keep that separate from our own, our own ongoing?
I was so hoping that you would ask that question, because now I can
Just for you.
introduce you to a new term.
Okay,
It's called an immutable backup. And so what this software does is, let's say that a virus gets sent down in the backups, and we don't learn about the backups, or we don't learn about that virus until 30 days. So that means 30 days of data are corrupted. So what immutable backups mean is each one of those changes is unchangeable. So the virus can't go back and change the day before. So it can't corrupt data that wasn't corrupted before. So let's say it takes us 30 days to find there's a virus in our system. We can go back to day 31, and because it is an immutable backup, unchangeable, then we can restore that day 30. Now we've lost those 30 days, and that's tragic, but we don't lose everything. So
oh, brilliant.
yeah, that's it. When I found out about that about an hour ago, I was like, oh, wow, that is really cool, and a new word.
So, and is this
Petabyte?
yeah, that's bigger than a terabyte?
Yeah.
Now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know how much bigger?
Nope.
I don't really care.
1,000 terabytes,
I will-
probably. That seems to be the scale.
Yeah,
Write
Ken,
it down and figure it out later.
Ken can tell us real quick, if you could let Ken talk. Ken, how much is a petabyte?
A petabyte is 1,000 terabytes. It's just the next name in sequential from, kilobyte, megabyte,
Okay,
all the way up. So, and real quick, just the 500 or half a petabyte or 500 terabyte is how much storage there is on the new backup system. That's not how much we have to back up, but we currently back up about, I want to say about 20 terabyte, but with all the redundancy of the many backups that we do over and over, we're about up to about 50 terabytes compressed and deduplicated. And this will allow us to get 10 times that space. But over the next 5 years, which is about the life we plan on for backup systems, we will probably go 10 times the space. So we also
That's
have
room to grow.
room to grow. So
Thanks, Ken.
that's awesome.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about it. It's a pretty cool system.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll move on to our consent agenda. Mr. Pyle.
Thanks, ma'am. So the Glen Eagle Drive one, the very first one, resolution 22-57, is a public access easement and public sidewalk easement. And this is basically associated with the hotel development that you just looked at. So it would facilitate that. All four of the other ones are your typical right-of-way purchase agreement, warranty deed, temporary construction easement, all associated with the sidewalk improvement upgrades for the year. And none of them, I should say, none of them are more than 500. All of them are under $500 or less.
Did anybody have any questions on the consent agenda? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to our communications and the budget program mods. And we'll turn the time to Mr. Pyle.
Okay, thanks, ma'am. Just a couple of points I wanted to bring you this week. The first is just sort of a general update of where I've been in terms of kind of going through the system again. I actually have a draft memo I was hoping to get out to you guys today, but there's still a couple of things I'm finishing up on that. So I'll probably go out tomorrow morning, I'm guessing. But the gist of it is this, if you remember the wide pay gap that was, or the pay need that was making up the gap that I presented you in the first presentation, we have narrowed that, this is good news, narrowed that to 9.7 million due to going back through individually looking at the positions, calculating where each employee is at or would be if the position is vacant, benefits, all that sort of thing. So that's good news. There are also a couple of other revenue pieces that are additions that are also good news. The net of all of that is, I don't think at this point that we're going to need to ask for that larger property tax increase that I propose, at least as an option. We still will need to ask for the one that we talked about last summer and was discussed then. So that'd be about 3.3 million. I'll detail that in the memo that you get tomorrow. But again, just for the numbers, that would basically equate to roughly around a 9% increase, maybe a little less. It'd be about $5 a month or $60 a year. And of course, I'm still also going through a second and a third cut. So if there was any way to get to where we didn't need to do that, then we're still looking for those cuts. I don't think we're going to get there, but it is good news on that other piece. I don't think we'll have to do that. Anything else on that piece? Like I said, I've drafted another memo. I'll update you on that and get it out to you probably by tomorrow. Another piece of not necessarily helpful to the gap, but important for your consideration is the ongoing program mod list that I sent you last week. And I thought maybe I'd go over that a little bit tonight, not for purposes of running necessarily through each individual item, but just to kind of give you an overview thought of what's the thinking behind how we could treat the overall amount or the groups that are in between that. So Eric, will you bring that up? And I'm sorry, I don't have this on the council information because I just was working on this earlier, but I also printed a copy
Thank
here.
you.
Sir, is it the recommended?
Yeah, the recommended one-time projects and ongoing. And you're on the right tab. So if you all have taken a look at that, you'll notice that I used the same file. You got two tabs at the bottom. One's one time and one's ongoing. Ongoing is what we're going to talk about tonight. So Eric, if you scroll to the bottom, you see there's 1.47 million. And again, I should also note, these aren't necessarily recommended. They're just ones that I put together in a list of saying there are critical or urgent things about these ones that meant that I felt like they were worthy of at least inclusion from a discussion standpoint. You wouldn't have to, if you didn't increase any program mod at all out of this list, it wouldn't cripple city operations. We would operate on and be able to go forward. But there are probably about three main lumps, if you will, in this that kind of have different needs, and therefore I thought would be worth about talking about for your consideration. The first one, if you'll scroll again up to the top, Eric, and I might have you scroll down a little bit from there. So yes, the first three items, these are an added maintenance employee, additional equipment and maintenance contracts, and then additional utilities. And this is basically for all of the new facilities that have been built and added over the last few years. Probably I could have come and asked for these additions last year, maybe even a little bit before. But because of a couple of reasons, we were brand new facilities that didn't need maintenance, or I was trying to assess what utility costs were really going to look like, or we were seeing what how far the maintenance staff, and by maintenance staff, I mean everything from custodial to like electrical to, all of that, could stretch what they already have. So I chose to wait. So now we're at the point where we probably need to do something with these. And that number, as you can see there, is pretty close to $500,000. So I think it's actually just over, but it's about $500,000. And of the whole lump of the 1.47 or 1.5, if you will, this is probably the one that's going to be the hardest to avoid. So I'll just kind of leave that at that. Unless you have any questions about the facilities or the whys or the wherefores, I'd be glad to talk about that. Or we can come back if you have any questions later. Eric, if you would scroll down a little bit further. Okay, the next group is kind of roughly included in here, and that is fire activities. And the main one, the fire inspector on the top there, is an additional employee. We may be able to tweak that one such that that cost might be even lower or eliminated. There will be some additional revenue that would come in because of that inspector's ability to get out and do more work than is being done currently, but we're still looking at that. The part-time logistics personnel, that's a relatively low number. Really, my thinking here was this is something that if we could do at a relatively low cost would free up duties that are now being filled by firefighters or paramedics. The big one on the fire budget is this $225,000 for overtime. And this is one of those items where, again, if the council did not approve this, or if in whatever mix of budget recommendations, we just decided to cut that down or out, it's not like operations would cease tomorrow. The reason the overtime increase is needed or would be helpful is that in our current staffing, we have what are called minimal staffing levels for our equipment and for our stations, and you all are probably familiar with that or have heard that term before, with the possible exception of Will and Scott. And we often fall short on those minimal staffing levels, not because we don't have necessarily enough people hired, although that happens too, but because we have people that are off on PTO for whatever reason. You know, they're on vacation or they're sick or whatever happens. In the event that that happens, sometimes we have to take out of service a particular piece of equipment. It's even happened in the past, although it's very rare that we'll even have to shut down a station for a little while. This would allow us to not do that. There is another option I didn't include in this list that you do have in the overall program modification list, not pictured here, in which John or Chief Evans recommended that you could also address that by hiring 3 more personnel. Both of those are roughly in the same figure amount cost-wise. I just chose to include the overtime one because it's the simplest and it's illustrative for the purpose. So again, this figure is kind of more in the $300,000 range. It is an important item. It is necessary, but we could get along without it too. Okay, Eric, if you'll scroll down a little bit further. Maybe to where, yeah, right about where you're at. So this is actually the biggest single lump of the whole thing. And this is one of those just sheer philosophical discussions of which we have a number of ways to approach. So in IT, we have, it's over $500,000. I think it's something on the order of 550, 570. A couple of proposals that would do exactly what we've talked about as a council in the past. It would fund a replacement and rotating purchase both on the software side and the equipment side, so we would no longer have to lease equipment and or software and the maintenance needs that arise with those. But again, that adds $500,000 to the overall ongoing budget, and given the gap of where we're at, it would necessarily add that $500,000 to that gap. So and how would we handle that? By not doing this, we'd handle it in one of the 2 ways that we've already been doing. We'd either come to you with the whole purchase and purchase it as a one-time purchase out of fund balance, or we'd come back with a 5-year, 3-year, whatever the equipment case is, lease program. So that's how that would be handled if the council chose not to do that. Okay, one more down, not necessarily the line, but just a little further, Eric. There is a large chunk of increases in operations to Parks and Recreation overall, but almost all of it is offset by budget revenue. So it wouldn't be a net hit to to the ongoing budget, except for two specific places. One is $9,800 that the Harmon Senior Center needs for covering increased costs to things like HVAC maintenance, travel training. This is an overall operational increase that the Harmon home hasn't had in a long time. And given the minimal number there, I included that. The other one, the 56,916 above that, is partially offset by revenues for the cultural center, but not entirely. So that also would be an increase. Overall, to Parks and Rec again, there are Stonebridge and the Ridge, especially in the concessions area. There's also a fitness center increase, all of which are offset by budget revenue. So I would recommend we include those in the final budget. And I forgot that one item was not on this. It's on the one-time budget list that I just wanted to touch on real quickly. And it's at the very bottom. It's that one right there, actually. So because I know it's small, I'll describe it. So the city financial management system is approaching the end of its useful life again. This would be the third one that I have had the pleasure of going through that process for in my own career here. You can see these software packages are pretty expensive. This one would be 1.6 million. I'm not recommending that we do it this year. I just wanted to put it in your mind that these are the kinds of increases and systems that we're having to look at from time to time, whether it's facilities, whether it's software, whether it's equipment purchase. And they are all important. It's just a matter of prioritizing between them. I didn't choose to include that one, but I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of it. And that is basically the update. Any questions or thoughts on the ongoing stuff? Oh, I did have one closing comment on that. So in the update that I'm working for now, and I'll give you the memo to as of tomorrow, I'll have that gap narrowed to somewhere between $800,000 and about 2.3 million. The difference is really that 1.5 million and what you decide to do with it. The 800,000 is other stuff that I'm still looking for revenue and cuts to get to zero. The 800 plus 1.5 equals that 2.3. Okay. So just for your knowledge. I know that's a lot to throw at you there in a few minutes. So if you've got questions, that'd be great. If not, I'll be continuing to update you with memos and information anyway.
Okay, thank you. Question?
Well, just curious on the city's network infrastructure, the 300,000, how is that different from the backup server and our decision to use a lease on that one and pay out of budget?
Yeah, great question. So the only reason we're recommending the lease this time around is because that's what was currently, that's what the system was that was in place. We've been contemplating different ways to approach it. There's been a request to say, hey, why don't we consider buying all these things on a one-time basis and or then funding a fund that would allow us to buy them on an ongoing basis without having to pay interest. We just hadn't got to that point yet. So if that same purchase came up next year and we had these two items approved on the IT side, then that would be purchased out of that funding.
So if this was a lease, do you know what that looked like a similar to the backup server?
Yes.
5-year type deal?
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes the leases are a little different in length, but they're usually right around there in that range, 4 years, 5 years.
Is that the typical life of the equipment?
Right, exactly.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Mayor. But Wayne, I'm just learning about our IT department, and we have to take care a portion of, I mean, not a portion, but take care of the city hall right here, and they have to take care of the police department. Is that right? They have to rotate and do
The facilities piece, is that what you're talking about?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So they need more.
Right. We haven't added any custodial staff for quite some time and have added now, as you know, the new police department, the public works building, the parks maintenance building, one extra and one expanded fire station. So over the last few years, we have added a lot of space.
So we okay right there?
I mean, we're not ideal, or I wouldn't be requesting that, and I wouldn't have prioritized Jake's request, who actually made that. We're getting by, but as you know, and I think I put in that last memo, the longer you defer maintenance, the harder it comes back to bite you in the end, so.
I have one question on this Veterans Day program, this 31,000.
Yes.
Can you break down what is the concert series? I mean, it seems like it's more than just one program.
It is more than one program. I can't break down the 31,000 individually, but I could get that for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
mean, just eventually.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. Because I think the Veterans Day program has been a good program,
Yes.
even though the funding's gone away, so.
Right. And originally, the Veterans Day expansion, we used to do this Veterans Day program that was pretty simple. I think we had some like cookies and Kool-Aid or something along with it and that sort of thing. And it expanded over the years into a full dinner, and the mayor had some funding that he got from a private source and that
Right.
sort of thing. And now we're kind of out of that situation.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep. Bet.
Any other concerns or questions on the budget? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to our arts and culture update from Miss Day. And she is online. There we go. I'll turn the time over to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Let me share my screen. All right. So I appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk with each of you about our arts and culture division within Parks and Recreation. They're doing some amazing things. The staff's great, and it's a great opportunity for me to show you some of the things that they're doing. And let me there we go. So you can see on here on this first screen, I really wanted to talk a little bit, just very briefly, about the value of arts and culture in any community, and especially in West Valley City. And I won't go through each of these, but you could see the importance of bringing people together, allowing people ourselves to process our experiences and really understanding each other. One of the main ones is the general health and healing that takes place physically, emotionally, mentally, just really everything that happens that they've been able to show through studies that this really is helpful and a big part of the quality of life. And part of that, it uplifts the human spirit, whether it's looking at a beautiful painting or sculpture, listening to soothing music, or even a theatrical performance that, touches your heart or maybe your mind. Dance, any different form of arts and culture is really what I want to identify with you tonight. And more importantly, each of these really identify with West Valley City. We have a very rich diversity within our city. And, I don't know if you know, you probably do, Thomas Kincaid, a famous artist, that said art transcends cultural boundaries. And I really believe that, we have all these different ethnicities that portray and really celebrate their culture through a lot of the different things that I just mentioned. So I want to thank you on behalf of our department and division for your support of these efforts, because they truly do make a difference in the lives of our community. And it's great to have it in our backyard for people to enjoy. So let's jump right in first with the Utah Cultural Celebration Center. And I'll just go through these with you really quickly. So the resurgence of the facility, the use and event attendance is still up. That you probably remember my presentation in October on this. I had that there as well. And we're continuing to see that. As a matter of fact, April, so next month with what's reserved in the system, it will actually be one of the busiest months that we've seen for a while. It looks more like an average month from pre-COVID, which is really good. We know that some of the things changed permanently from COVID in regards to use of the rooms and the conventions, and the staff are working hard to identify that and look at that, see what they can do. But April is a really good sign. So that's good to hear. Pioneer Crossing Park, which is just to the east of the Celebration Center. It's right up against the Jordan River. That is a Salt Lake County park, but construction has started for that for phase one. And that is underway. It should be done by the end of this calendar year. That's the goal. The railings and concrete repairs. So if you've been out and you've looked at some of the railings and concrete going down the stairs, kind of between the cultural center, the amphitheater, and some of the other areas down there, a lot of rusting, a lot of issues, and seriously needed some work done to that. So the staff were great. They were able to get a grant that pays for almost every single part of that. And that should be done by the end of this fiscal year. The canal renovation, that, as you may recall, the canal water is shut off, and so that will be going away completely. We have some designs in place for that that will really enhance that entire area, but it's more of a funding thing. So we're working on different things we could do maybe to help with that. The Chinese gate repair and restoration, we do have a bid for that, and we have some funds that we've been able to find. So we're just looking for a little bit more. Our hope is to maybe be able to get that done also, at least by fall, but we're just kind of pacing ourselves on that, trying to secure a little bit more on the funding side. Energy efficiency project. So that's similar to the Family Fitness Center with the HVAC and the work that's been done there. That's going to take a little while, but they are underway and getting some things taken care of. Another thing regarding that, the staff's been really good to look at ways we can reduce our carbon footprint. So things like looking for grants where we could install some electric vehicle charging stations in the parking lot. So they're working on elements that we can apply there. And then capital repairs are some of the things that I've already mentioned. Of course, the amphitheater needs some work, as you know, and that's a bigger project, as is some of the foundation work that's on the northeast corner that needs some repair work. So those are some things that we're looking at the Cultural Center. All right, so let's talk a little bit about arts and culture now. On this, the gallery, so this calendar year, we'll have 24 exhibits. I don't know if you remember in October, but last calendar year we had 16, which was of course up from the year before, which were all virtual. The reason we're up is you can see on that bottom right picture that we added the gallery space in the theater. And the new lighting and the hanging rails that's mentioned there, those were all funded by a grant. So we didn't have to pay for any of that. And it's really a nice area that people can enjoy. We're planning on doing about 3 to 4 exhibits a year in that area. Artrageous, very popular program. Susan Klinker started a number of years ago. During COVID, had to move to online. I have that still on there because it's online, but we're also moving towards more in-person. We're able to start in the fall time period. With some of the educational tours at the theater, we're seeing more and more that we can do in person with that, with the students. So that's really helpful. As a matter of fact, this week, the Utah Shakespeare Festival is doing a production there and bringing students in at the Cultural Celebration Center, since we have performances going on at the theater. And so the tie-in has been really, really helpful. The last bullet on that is we launched with our last production of Beauty and the Beast, a reduced ticket program at the theater. So these are for West Valley City students, and it's only certain performances. So Beauty and the Beast, Little Women, and In the Heights. 10% of the house for the first weekend only will be given to the students. So when I say given, they're all paid for by a local nonprofit foundation. So we're not losing any money by doing that, but what we are doing is offering a benefit to our students in West Valley City that may not have that opportunity otherwise. So it's a very good program, and that is falling under Artrageous as well. Concerts, we will have a summer concert series, some at the amphitheater, some we'll move a couple performances at Fairborn Station for our Wednesday night Hump Day Buffet concerts. And then we'll have our winter concert series, as always, with the 3 performances in the month of December. And I'll be sure and get you more details on all of that. Day of the Dead, you can see the date there this year. We had 2,000 in person last year, which I felt was really good considering we hadn't had it during COVID. And even last year, we had to make a lot of modifications. This year, we're hoping to be able to, and the way it is right now, we would be able to eliminate the mask requirement, the distancing requirements, those types of things. Tree stories. So a few of you were able to attend our premiere, or I should say our opening ceremony for that exhibit. This has been a great thing for us to have. So the opening reception was on March 10th. We had quite a good crowd, and there was everything from the galleries to dance to music. Appreciate Mayor Pro Tem Hoon for coming and speaking and getting that going for us as well. It's a really great community engagement and collaboration. As you can see, we have sponsorship from Tree Utah. They're very passionate about this as well. And one of the things that they are doing, you'll see QR codes set up and signs at the cultural center, the theater, the fitness center online for people to donate. And Tree Utah has set that up. So the funds that come in will go for trees specifically for West Valley City, thus enhancing our tree canopy and really beautifying our city even more. When we put trees in parks, we can't use the small seedlings. We need to use trees that are a little bit bigger, so they're more expensive. So this will really be beneficial for us to have that. And Tree Utah has been great with that fundraising campaign for us. And then the summer community theater. So last year we did have to cancel it because of COVID concerns. This year, we're reintroducing a little bit of a new format and really utilizing the students in the schools, the high schools, junior highs, to be able to not only be in the production, but learn how to direct, learn how to market, learn how to do front of house, and really get a good experience, well-rounded with all of that. So I'm not sure if we'll see that this year, but for sure next year, we'll be able to bring that back after we get that new format finalized. So then we move right into the West Valley City Performing Arts Center. So you can see the strengths we've got here. Attendance growth has been great. Beauty and the Beast saw 70% of seats filled for most of the performances, which is actually up 25% from, or excuse me, 45% from Sweeney Todd, which was also an excellent show and performance. So if you recall, last year I showed some figures on that and the increase. So we're really moving the right direction with the theater. Again, community performer passion with that. They love the theater, the play, and certainly the staff that they work with. For Little Women, which will be our next production, we have a director who is well-renowned. He is a local playwright and has done a fantastic job, and people want to be in a play that he's directing. And then, of course, we have some excellent personnel. We've been able to hire some more that just really are quality professionals, and we're excited about the possibilities there. You can kind of see the sales tax increase there. So the last two productions, and Footloose and Sweeney Todd, are good productions. They had a great revenue increase from prior productions, and Beauty and the Beast almost reached that as well, just for the one production. So we are seeing some good things. Of course, some productions bring in more than others. You have the big performances, big productions like these, and then you fit in between some of them that might be a little bit smaller, might not bring in as many people, but they also don't cost as much. So all of that is considered as the productions are planned out for the year. Challenges, I kept staffing on there because we still need a little bit more seasonal well, I shouldn't say seasonal, part-time, based upon the different plays and productions that are there. But honestly, we're doing really well with that. Capital repair. So this theater, as you know, is 24 years old, and it's well loved and it looks it. So it needs a little bit of work there to really help, kind of bring it up to where it needs to be. And the staff, we're working on different ideas or fundraising to maybe help with that. Part of that is a stage infrastructure. You'll recall last year I said it would be about 1.5 million to get it back to the original, capacity of what it can do, which is amazing. There's nothing like it in the Valley. Now we just got a more recent bid. It's 1.7 million. So just like everything else, it continues to go up as well. So we're working on maybe certain elements that we can get working that won't cost as much. So at least we can use more of the functionality of the stage. And then the marketing budget. So I kind of mentioned we really want to get some marketing and publicity out there to let people know, hey, we're back. We've got great productions. We've got really good reviews from people that have reviewed the productions. It's one of those things where our marketing budget is really a fraction of other theaters. So the staff are being creative and thinking of ways that we can really market all of that. Excuse me. And then the final slide is just looking at the remaining season for the year. The Foreigner is in production now. It finishes up this Saturday. So if you haven't seen it and you want to, please make sure that you get your tickets for that. This is one of the bloggers that did a review, the Utah Theater bloggers. And honestly, it was a great review. I think the only negative really was that he wished more people filled the seats. And so that kind of goes back to the marketing again, right? Because he's like, this is great. We'll have next week from March 28th through the 22nd of April, we have our partnership again, very strong with Utah Shakespeare. They're going to be doing Give 'Em Hell Harry, which is a one-man show.
Nancy,
Oh, I'm sorry, what's that?
we've lost you.
Nancy, we've lost just about everything after you said Little Women in April.
Oh, okay. let
And no better.
me- Shoot. Oh, I'm so sorry. Still can't hear me?
Nope.
Nope.
I can hear you just, but they can't.
Oh, oh,
We don't
okay.
have Jake either.
We're talking.
Yeah, we're talking.
Oh, great.
He can hear me.
I can hear you now, so.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, so, boy, I don't know where I left off, but
Women in
we'll just keep
April?
moving. So Little Women in April, okay, well, okay, let's keep going. So Give 'Em Hell Harry. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Thumbs up. Okay. That's from Utah Shakespeare. And it says April 22nd. It's April 2nd, I believe, on that. That's about Harry Truman from his childhood through his 2 presidencies. One-man show. The only side off on that is on March 31st. They will be doing Every Brilliant Thing as a tour kickoff. And I'll talk just briefly about that at the end. So yeah, Little Women, they're rehearsing now. So that's probably where I left off with the director being amazing and the people wanting to come to work for him as well as the theater. They had 175 people audition and brought 35 back for callbacks. So that's really good. That'll be our next performance. In the Heights is a very popular one. It came out as a movie, as a film last year, if you saw that. But this is something that we're excited about, as we are with Little Shop of Horrors, which is a musical written, as you can see, by these 2 that did Disney, Aladdin, and others. And then Every Brilliant Thing is how we'll finish up with the Utah Shakespeare Festival in November. I don't have the dates right now. But I'll get those to you. And I just want to, I can't do it justice, so I just want to read a few sentences of what it's about. The story begins when, at 7 years old, the lone character learns that his mother is in the hospital after her first attempt to take her own life. Afterwards, he begins a list of everything brilliant about the world, everything worth living for. It says that throughout the play, so the character will interact with the audience as well. But it's got a very strong message. And after the tour kickoff on March 31st in West Valley City at our facility, they're going to be touring all over to the different schools to really get this important message out to the students, to the youth, and to others. And our governor, Governor Cox, said that he believes that this production will save lives. So it's really, I think, really special that West Valley City gets to be a part of this, that not only are we kicking it off, but it will be in our theater in November for a number of performances for people to enjoy. So I think it's wonderful that we're going to be a part of that. And that's the end. And I don't know how much you missed. I apologize. But do you have any questions I can answer for you?
I think you took it up right where you left, so you were good, Nancy. Any
Okay,
questions or comments?
Great job. This is exciting.
Thank you.
Saw the Foreigner Friday and that was really, it was funny. It was great.
Good. Good.
Nancy, a couple of questions for you.
Yeah.
First one, so right now we like combining fitness center and culture center. So you're taking care of two places right now. We used to have the guy name, it's a gentleman, I'm sorry, gentleman name. Is it Dave?
Andrew?
Yeah, Andrew, he's still there?
No, he's left. So I had reassigned the theater and the cultural center to Nancy before Andrew left, after Paul retired. So she's had that responsibility organizationally since then. She does have a new theater director and has reassigned cultural center director too. So we have I don't think we added spots. We might have expanded Andrews a little bit, but yeah, it's basically the same number of positions, just different people have been into it now.
Okay, I just wonder. Okay. Second question I want to ask you with Nancy. You know,
Yes.
a few years ago, we had a chef event, like cooks, they have something like cooking outside, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes, the Wasatch International
great.
Food Festival. Yes.
Yeah, you planning to do that in future?
Yes, we are. We won't be doing it this year. There's been some challenges and some of the costs have gone up extremely high. So we are planning on bringing that back, in 2023. So you won't see it this year, but you'll see it next year. We may have to modify it because of some of the costs, but it's still going to be excellent and the staff will do a great job.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Farmers market.
Yes, there is. I heard that.
Do you want to speak to that for a sec, Nancy?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the farmers market, you know, we've had some challenges getting somebody to really help us run that, which we needed to do for various reasons. And we were able to get somebody that's fantastic, that's doing other farmers markets. And I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but we will be starting those this summer out at Centennial Park. And I'll give you the actual dates. I believe it will start in July, but I will get you the actual dates, times, details, all of that. So you'll be able to come and enjoy that. So yay, it took a while, but we got it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll now go to the streetlight program and turn the time over to Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. I'm excited to talk about streetlights tonight. Advancing. There we go. A little bit of background on how we came to where we are with streetlights in West Valley City. In 1980, we incorporated and inherited, several wood poles with cobra heads on them. And then in 84, the council required that yard lights were installed with every new home. I remember these as a kid, but I honestly don't think I see any more yard lights around anywhere. So in the mid 90s, the city worked to fund the installation of streetlights where there weren't streetlights at the time, and Rocky Mountain Power installed those and maintained them at the cost of the city, of course. In 2004, the council passed an ordinance that required streetlights to be installed in new subdivisions. And in 2009, the city purchased the streetlights that were previously maintained by Rocky Mountain Power and then assumed maintenance of that entire system, which saved the city substantially at that time. In 2010, the city bonded for, we had some federal funds, stimulus funds at the time that we used to upgrade several fixtures to LEDs. Then in 2020, the city bonded very recently to upgrade all bulbs to LED which essentially paid for itself. The energy savings pays for the bond. And then in January 2020, a new streetlight utility fee went into place. That is where we find ourselves now. January 2022, I think I said 2020. So just a kind of a big picture view of what our system looks like. So we've got about roughly equal proportions of wood poles, fiberglass poles, which was the 1990s installation. And then everything installed after 2003 has been an aluminum pole. Wood poles, they don't look great. They serve a function. They provide a little bit of light. Generally, they aren't spaced. They're spaced further apart than what we would than our current standard is. They're all normally serviced by overhead wires, and they will last a really long time. But it's just a wood pole. We go to great efforts to bury other overhead poles and wires and things like that. So the fiberglass poles, the mid 1990 installation, generally they're fed by direct burial, wired directly buried in the dirt. When it fails, it fails. And it's really difficult to repair and to restore power to those things. From a lifespan perspective, we're probably reaching the end of many of those lights, which really is one of the great problems we face. So this is just a picture of where we've had underground failures. And again, most of the underground failures do stem from those directly buried wires, but not all of them. And then the aluminum light poles have a long life expectancy. They aren't without maintenance. They'll look faded after a while, and at some point are going to require some paint and some upkeep. Generally, these are installed with wire in conduits and boxes that can be maintained and replaced much easier, but also lend themselves to potential wire theft and other nuisance problems. So in January of this year, the city council created it happened last year, but it went into effect, a new streetlight utility fee, which is an enterprise sole purpose fee that's collected by our utility billing department. It's $3 per month per home. And then we assess commercial properties with public street frontage, $3 per 80 linear feet of street frontage. And this is just a kind of a glimpse of where we sit in relation to other cities and their fees. The blue is the garbage fees, the yellow is the stormwater utility fee, and the gray up top is a streetlight utility fee. Not every city has one of those, but those that do, we're kind of in the realm of where they sit, and just gives you a picture of where we are in relation to other cities. So previously, we had roughly $500,000 annually to energize and maintain our streetlight system. And the new streetlight utility fee gives us approximately $1.3 million annually to take care of that system. So this slide gives you a bit of a kind of a picture of a multi-budget year look as we transition from the old to the new budget. And so fiscal year 20 is the reason I included that is because it still included the energy pre-LED conversion. And so you can see going from the gray to the blue, we're looking forward to some substantial energy savings. But of course, that's, that includes a bond payment as well now, but the bond payment plus the energy is less than the energy before. So that was a good change. And then I did not include on here the fiscal year in which we currently are, because it's a partial year. The utility fee it only came into effect in January. So, but the blue is what we anticipate. And so what we're really looking forward to is the ability to maintain the system and improve it substantially over what we have been able to do in the past. So what are we going to do? Historically, we have really just been very reactive in our maintenance, and the whole purpose of the creation of this utility fee was to enable us to be more proactive in the maintenance of the system. And And that's what we intend to do. So some of the challenges we're facing right now are the challenges that everybody else is facing. We've come to the council to purchase a new bucket truck, but that's only the actual bucket truck itself. We are not able to place an order with Ford for the chassis, but as soon as we do, we intend to go there. And we've had a position open for quite a while for an electrician that we've not been able to fill. So these are challenges, that we're working through, but we are adapting. We're just, for now, we've got the same staffing level until we can really, that could happen any day, but we intend to get what we need done with more contracted work. And so just to give you a picture of a few things that are coming up, we're working on a project that I hope to see here before the council in a couple of months. This is kind of some low-hanging fruit throughout the city of some pretty obvious missing improvements. So there's a big section on 3100 South with no lights at all. And then several little small areas throughout the city that don't have any lighting. And so we're putting together a project that we'll bid and then bring to the council for award. And we'll just install a fair amount of new lighting in new areas this coming year. We've also got several locations throughout the city where the underground wiring is bad or it's either bad from just failure for whatever reason, or it's been hit by excavation activities, or the wire's been stolen. And so we are putting together a kind of a big wire restoration project to restore some big areas that have been, that are still dark. Yes.
So I don't see that area over on the frontage road of the 201 by H&M and those guys.
That's the 2400 South and 4800 West.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Thank
kind of that road that loops around.
Well, isn't it on that main road as well? The frontage road, not just the one behind? There was,
I'd have to check, because
culvert
the
theft.
wire that I was aware of that had been stolen was on 48th West and 2400 South.
Okay,
So-
the one I was told about was on the frontage road of the
Sure.
201
Well, we'll
in front of
check,
those
yeah.
businesses.
And if we have additional outages out in that area, we would certainly include that in this restoration project. So
Okay, thank you.
this is work that we'll have done by contractors. And of course, we have a lot of work to do. There's some, just to highlight a few big things, that much of Lake Park Boulevard is dark right now. Those wires were not buried in conduit. They were installed late 90s, and we're not buried in conduit, and the underground has gone bad. And it really has come to the point that the underground needs to be replaced, which is a pretty large project. We've also got,
Can I
yes.
ask a question about that?
Mhm.
So because these developers put this in and they don't put it in correctly, do we need to change our building standards so that they have to
Yeah.
put it in conduct?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So
conduit
this,
and everything
yep,
else?
yeah. So in Lake Park, that was installed in the late 90s when it's a different standard. We don't have that same standard anymore.
Okay,
Everything that gets installed now gets installed with conduit and boxes. And we're actually working, our standard keeps evolving because our boxes in low traffic areas, if the boxes are exposed, they become easy targets for vandalism and theft. And so we modify that, sometimes we bury those, sometimes we fill them with concrete, which makes our own maintenance more difficult, but
but you
it
don't
keeps
have the
them
problem
alive.
with the theft?
So that's definitely a challenge that we're working through. But the standard has changed from there to now substantially. We don't ever bury wire directly in the dirt anymore.
And we don't
Because-
let developers do that?
No.
Okay,
No, absolutely
you.
not. Yep, and so throughout the city, there's several undergrounds that are just out. There's actually one out here on 27th West that is in front of the mall that we're working on, and there's also lots of places throughout the city that don't have lights. And what do we do? How do we approach the maintenance of these poles? These are all questions that we have, and so really what we intend to do, we're working on putting together an RFP so that for the development of a street lighting master plan, we would like to hire somebody to help us to really think through these issues, maybe some firm that's dealt with this kind of stuff before. And there's other cities around us that have done these to help them to formulate their work plans. And so this is something that we intend to do, and it'll be something that we bring to the council for your approval. But we really want to make sure that what we're doing makes sense. And right now, initially, we've picked some projects that are really the low hanging fruit that would be, they're obvious, really good additions to the system and some big holes that we have. And so, but at some point, it's going to get more and more tricky to decide, well, what do we do next? And so we'd like to really take a step back and think about what that process looks like. And so, yeah, so that's really what I have there for you. And unless you have any questions, I don't have anything else.
Okay, does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Okay, Scott?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Just a couple things. I think we all know that I'm not a fan of the light fee. But a couple things beyond that. One of my neighbors mentioning they would really like to see our lights less light pollution. That means a different style of light. I'm sure we've kind of baked into a design standard for the city for all of our lights, but just wanted to hear about that. And then also, I'm in favor of adding new lighting and prioritizing that over repairing or working on wood poles. I mean, I've got a wood pole I'm looking at right now out my window, and I'm fine with it. I've had it for 20 years and it's good. So I would prefer to spend the money on new lighting versus existing lighting. So just those two things.
Sure. So the first question, sorry, it slipped my mind. The
Light shielding.
Oh, yes, light pollution.
Light pollution.
Yeah, that's something that I would like to look at as within this master plan to make sure that we aren't bouncing too much light up into the atmosphere and darkening the night sky. So definitely an issue that we need to be cognizant of.
And I agree with Councilmember Harmon to the fact of, I think new installation is more of a priority than maintenance,
Sure.
especially where we're putting out there that we're doing this for safety. And so I think we need a good mix of maintenance, but a better priority on new as well.
Sure. No, that's good to understand where your priorities lie.
Yes.
I believe I said it with you before about the west side when I was in the east side, and way back maybe 20 years ago or something, and the one in the middle is a vacant land. But right now you see this basically it's a house everywhere in our city now. You know what I'm saying? So before we didn't have that much, light. Only one in the west and one in the east, and then the one in the middle they don't have. So that's kind of along with the Scott and Mayor right here. So we can add new more light in, right? Okay. Second question I want to ask you is I want to know about aluminum pole and so wooden pole. I know it's aluminum is really nice. It's shorter than the wood one. Okay. But they have more light than the wood, or they have just
Really,
light.
it just depends on the fixture at that point. The pole is just what's going to hold the fixture up in the air, and our current standard, what we install the most of, is that acorn style light, which throws light down kind of in a circular pattern. We actually have shields we install on the house side so that we're not putting so much light into your bedroom window. We have an industrial light that we install that it's a Cobra head that's similar to the fixtures that are on a wood pole. That essentially function the same. It's just a black aluminum pole as opposed to a Cobra head that's mounted on a wood pole. So they function the same. It's just that the pole looks different, and you're not going to have it be fed with overhead wire.
So you're going to use them to some area. You're going to use some wood, some aluminum, some.
Yeah, we would likely not install any new wood poles unless we were just replacing something existing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay,
Okay, thank you.
all right, we'll move on to the council calendar. Did anybody have questions or concerns with that? And everybody that is available is going to the gala next week. You've let the staff know. Okay. I know I have a couple businesses that would like council members to sit at their table, but we don't have more than what'll fit at our table. So if anybody else wants to go, they'd be more than welcome at other tables. So that was thrown out there. Okay, so no other questions with this? Okay. We'll move on to potential future agenda items. Anybody have anything there? Zero. And we'll move on to council reports.
I else says it.
Okay, nobody's like jumping, so Mr. Powell, go ahead.
I just wanted to give you an update on the court construction contract. So we went back to those who had bid. Our first responsible bidder backed out. They said they've got too many projects and not enough staff to complete them. So they asked to be released from that, which technically we would have had to anyway, given the timing. The good news is the second bidder on the contract was only different by, it was either 14 or 40,000. I can't remember which. And they are going to take the project on. And although I can't remember who it is off the top of my head right at the moment, it's somebody that we've worked with before and they do a good job. So we will be moving forward.
Okay,
Excellent.
perfect.
I have
Yes,
one,
Mr.
Mayor.
Webb.
Last Thursday, I went over to our apartment building in St. Patrick's Day.
For St. Patrick's.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me to do that. And really nice to see them and good people over there. Yeah, good visit.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing nothing else, do we have a need for a closed session?
No, ma'am.
Okay, one last motion.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye,
Hi.
and we are adjourned.